have entered the service of a new gentleman. It would seem, click, he is a gambling man. Hello and welcome to our gameplay of 80 Days. This game from Inkle that you can play on your phone, your iPad, and I think that you can even play it on computers now, is a sort of a game book or choose your own adventure game in which we take on the role of Passepartout from Jules Verne's book in 80 Days Around the World and try to help our master, Phileas Fogg, to travel around the globe in 80 days. We are starting in London in the 19th century, but this whole game has steampunk turn to it. Maybe I'm going to turn down the music volume a notch before we start, because the score is really beautiful, but I trust that some of you want to sleep during this video, so yeah, we start in London. Monsieur Phileas Fogg returned home early from the Reform Club, and in a newfangled steam carriage besides. I helped him down, and the iron-launched, steam-driven horses clattered away. "Passepartout," said he, "we are going around the world." And now we are faced with our very first choice, around the world, monsieur, or very good, monsieur. Now, I don't know what you are thinking on the other side of the screen, so I am going to probably mostly choose for this first game because I don't know anything, something that somehow corresponds to my personality, and my response in this case would probably be the second one, so we are going to click it. "Very good, monsieur," I murmured dutifully, not believing a word of it. "We shall circumnavigate the globe within 80 days. He was quite calm as he proposed this wild scheme. "We leave for Paris on 8:25, in an hour." This was quite a departure for my new master, who was, by all accounts, a creature of inflexible habit and mechanical regularity. Perhaps the carriage engine's fumes had affected his reason. "Perhaps you should lie down, monsieur. For Paris, monsieur. So, for Paris. To begin with, yes. Pack an altimeter and my evening jackets. There is not a moment to waste. You, Passepartout, now have funds. Your old character is now dependable." So, I've played around 10 days of this before I decided to do a gameplay of it, and the clock is always running, so sometimes when you arrive to a new city, another train you want to catch is departing in something like 20 minutes, and you have to click it in that moment, or you have to wait a day or two or even more before another method of transportation is available to you. So I don't know when the train for Paris is going away, but I think it's quickly Passepartout, and we really need to. We are going to. We are going to. This for this pocket altimeter, Paul of the air travel set, official and soldier types, and available in Copenhagen, Paris, and Venice. So we are taking this because we are going to sell it. And now every time you get something like a map of this, something that we packed to our package now, you can see new boats or methods of transportation you can take, because you have to find out some way to get a part. And we are going to note the Pre-Treat Express to Paris. The guards one has space for one suitcase, which will suffice. Travel. This promises to be a bearable route. Go. Amphithread Express is our first train. So, the mechanical horses raced past Piccadilly Circus and Pall Mall faster than a team of thoroughbreds. Even so, the whistle of 8:25 was blowing as we pulled up to Charing Cross stations. We have no tickets, I exclaimed. We raced along the concourse and threw ourselves aboard. What are we gonna do? We have no tickets, I exclaimed in horror. This does not signify, Monsieur Fogg remarked over his shoulder, and he hurried towards the platform. We must not miss this train. What are we gonna do? Mm. Um, but I dashed to the ticket booth, judging that there was a moment to spare. Uh, Elbowing aside a few ladies and gentlemen who were ambling about us through this were Brighton Pier and not a busy train station. 2 singles to Paris, I demanded breathlessly. The guard raised his pen with agonizing slowness. Leaving tomorrow? He intoned. I'm aiming for the 8:25 departure, I replied coolly. Are you now? The man replied with obvious amusement. Well then, he drew a metal tube from one wall and spoke to it. Geoffrey, hold the 8:25 a minute, won't you? I've got a fellow here running late. I thanked him profusely. The guard nodded, inscribed one ticket, then the other, then passed them slowly to me. I made my way back to the train, where the redoubtable Geoffrey was waiting, flag raised, for me to step aboard. I stopped to thank him, only to be interrupted by Monsieur Fogg, who was leaning out of a compartment window and demanding to know the cause of the half-minute delay. His lips thinned slightly as he caught sight of me, and so I ducked my head and hurried abroad. Your funds have gone down a little. Your relationship with Fogg has deteriorated. I can't pronounce this right, but I know that it means that it didn't go well. And now, I am on fine form where we must host converse. I am at your service, Monsieur Fogg. Ah, the bumbling passepartout. Begin conversation. What are we going to ask? We are going to ask about money. This journey will be most expensive, monsieur. Indeed, but we can earn a little from buying and selling our possession as we travel. Very good. London's smog gave way to rolling hills and the pastures of the Kentish countryside, still untouched by the hand of technological advancement. Monsieur Fogg read his paper whilst I repacked our bags. I demanded to know the purpose of our journey. We passed the day in silence. Monsieur Fogg read his paper while I repacked our bags, thrown together in haste and confusion. As afternoon turned inexorably to evening, I discovered that my master was one of those gentlemen who broke the silence rarely, if at all. A guard rapped on our door a few miles before Dover. We are about to submerge, he warned. Takes some people a bit funny, so watch out. What do you mean, submerge? But is it safe, is it not? Very good. Very good, I replied, as though submerging inside a 1,000-ton metal train was quite ordinary for me. If you feel claustrophobic, the guard replied, try running up and down the corridor. I always find the exercise helps. With that he closed the door. I pressed my face to the window glass as the fins above the Amphithread's wheels extended with a hydraulic hiss. Night fell, and we plunged past the end of the track into the freezing water of the English Channel. Amphithread Underwater Express. The Amphithread ploughed through the water overnight and splashed up onto wider gauge French tracks at Calais as dawn broke. Do we have a route in mind, monsieur? I asked as the water of the channel dried from the compartment windows. I am as yet undecided, my master admitted. The new canal has sped up the shipping route from Suez to Bombay, so perhaps we could take the Trans-Siberian Railway across Russia. Now what are we going to do? Surely not Bombay, or surely not Siberia. Mm, well, surely not Siberia, I exclaimed. It is so cold and grim, and I have a particular fear of bears. Of bears. Um, then we would do well to buy furs, he replied, refraining from rolling his eyes. There are other alternatives. We may also travel overland and across the Black and Caspian Seas. But which is fastest? I believe, said he, that is what we shall put to the test. Parbleu, I scarcely knew what to think. We arrived at Paris Gare du Nord. I'm terrible in French. Just after 1 o'clock. Automaton posters. Wow. Lifted our luggage and then our persons onto the platform with long, delicately filigreed ironed arms. Paris, city of my heart. I was home, but not to stay. New routes were discovered from Suez to Jeddah to Aden, then Bombay. This looks interesting. From Moscow to Ekaterinburg, Omsk, Irkutsk, Karimskaya, Ussuriysk und Vladivostok. So, okay, now, if I move myself, so we will need to explore so that we find other ways of departing now. New routes discovered, Munich, Vienna. We had a few hours to spare. I asked Monsieur Fogg if I might enjoy my city before we have to leave. Indeed, and should you learn anything of note, be sure to relay it. But do not waste any time. We have no time to spare. I nodded and headed to town. The talk on the streets was one thing only, an enormous, elegant oval stadium constructed upon the green fields of Champ de Mars, and containing the technological marvels, art, amusement parks, and milling crowds of the World's Fair of 1872. Oh, World's Fair. I I played about World's Fair in Civilization 5 a few days ago. Um, my city still wore the scars of the last year's siege. I went inside, but I did not intend for me to visit fairs. My city still wore the scars of the last year's siege, as did I. Paris and France had surrendered to the Prussian army after 4.5 months of grim, blood-soaked resistance in Franco-Prussian War. Now this World's Fair was intended to reassure the country's citizens and the world also that the City of Light was still a great capital of the world. I did not doubt that, uh, but perhaps um, there was something to be learned from my master instead, so I entered the grand illuminated pavilions of the exposition. An artificial was replacing an arc light which had burned out. She first disconnected the strange machine powering the lights. It had a spinning iron wheel which was wound around with a series of armature coils. I merely watched politely, not wanting to disturb her work. Artificials were a notoriously irritable breed. This is bleeding folly and waste, the artificial grumbled, in a thick Yorkshire accent. These grammar machines are finicky beasts. Grammar machines? I inquired. Well, it's a... Oh, never mind. She waved my question away. It's a steam engine, all right. Only it doesn't make steam. Will that do? I hate explaining this stuff to laymen. Um, I retreated hastily, not at all in terror of her Irish tone, merely aware there were delights and wonders aplenty, well away from annoyed Yorkshire-bred artificers. Avenues sprawled in every direction between the inviting, illuminated pavilions of the exposition. Um, I took a stroll down the Avenue of Nations, lined with buildings in the styles of the nations of the world, and manned by foreign delegates in national dress. Although the newly formed German Empire was a conspicuous absentee in uh, the city it had so recently conquered. The Zulu Federation had built a replica village and brought a delegation of 400 diplomats and warriors, which made for a busy, impressive stand. Above the display was a fine phototype of their great emperor, Ketchwayo, in his palace in Ulundi. A little wooden automaton shaped like a bird leapt from roof to roof, its wings woven with beads. It chirruped and landed near me, and I saw that its eyes glowed like unearthly lamps. I turned away hurriedly. Crowds of tourists jostled and headed past, their eyes wide with wonder. I headed towards the red and purple tents of the Artificers' Guild, draped with banners emblazoned with their copper lily sigil. Uh, a steam-powered automaton orchestra played gleaming brass instruments while a mechanical sommelier popped the cork from a champagne bottle and poured out bubbling over glasses for passing tourists. One of the artificers was explaining the guild's credo to a group of sticky-fingered children. The copper lily stamp of the guild is an assurance of safety and quality, the artificer said before pausing to gently discourage a curious toddler's ambitions of flight. We build and maintain everything from children's toys, she gestured to a nervy clockwork monkey which was enthusiastically banging a pair of cymbals, to airship engines, and even mechanical workers. I leaned closer and remained silent, eager to hear more of this wondrous, mechanized future. An automaton worker will never tire of the hunger or thirst. It can function happily under the hot glare of the sun, and it will not fussy jaw or cotton lung if it works in a factory. But can it feel loyalty or satisfaction in a good day's work? I asked. The artificer released the child squirming in her arms and gave me a lopsided grin. Perhaps one day we will buy automata to feel those emotions. There are many in the guild interested in such things. She raised her voice a little to address the small crowd that had gathered to eavesdrop or exchange. The Artificers' Guild operates across the border of nation, caste, and creed. In which countries? I called. All of them, she replied, pleased at the question. We have outposts in Bombay, Siberia, Bucharest, in every corner of the earth. She turned back to the children. When we become artificers, we give up our personal loyalties and swear to use our skills only for peaceful aims. The artificers continued, the cleverest engineers and inventors all working together to shape a better future for all the world. I remained somewhat skeptical of the rosy picture she painted. No organization was so perfect and noble. The artificial caught my sleeve as the crowd dispersed. How was my speech? I rehearsed it all night. Was it too much? Uh, Perhaps a bit much, I offered with a shrug as she bit her lip. I will tone it down for next time, she nodded thoughtfully, and gave me a distracted wave as I returned to the central square, stopping here and there to gaze at the wonders of the exposition. My feet were tiring, and the hour was growing late. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, who was eating a meal of plain boiled beef à l'anglaise. Did you enjoy the exposition? My master inquired diffidently. Um, Having preferred a hearty meal and an English newspaper to all the wonders that the modern world had to offer. Uh, we are unspeakably lucky to live in such an age of invention, I declared. It will certainly make it easier to win my wager. Monsieur Fogg replied mildly. Wager? I demanded. Indeed, I have staked a large sum that we will circumnavigate the globe in 80 days or less. Remarkable. And this is where this chapter is going to end. I'm going to upload a new one very, very soon. Uh, I hope you enjoy this. Uh, Goodbye.